My name is Riley Voss, and I'm about to tell you how the HOA Karen tried to steal an inheritance that was never hers, only to discover I'd been owning half the neighborhood from the shadows the entire time. Growing up in Serenity Pines meant learning your place early. The community was picture perfect on the surface: white picket fences, identical beige houses, lawns trimmed to exactly 2.5 inches. But underneath, it was ruled by the Serenity Pines Homeowners Association, a little dictatorship dressed in pastel cardigans. Karen Blakely was the undisputed star, president for 12 years running, married to the guy who owned the biggest insurance agency in town, always smiling that plastic smile while waving her clipboard like a royal scepter. Her son was the football captain who got the community scholarship every year. I was the one who never quite fit, the quiet graphic designer working from home in the smallest house on Elm Street, the one who dared to leave her trash can out for 37 minutes past the approved pickup window. The real fracture started when I was 26. I just bought my starter home here after scraping together a down payment from freelance gigs. Karen cornered me at the annual block party, voice dripping honey. "Riley, dear, we all want to keep our property values sky high, don't we? That faded mailbox of yours is really bringing the aesthetic down. Consider this your friendly first notice. $50 if it's not repainted and approved taupe by Friday." I paid it. Then came the notices for my excessive bird feeder, my non-compliant holiday lights, white only, no warm tones, my grass that somehow grew 1/10 of an inch too long after a rainy week. Each fine came with a printed smiley face and a Bible verse about loving thy neighbor. I smiled back, paid every single one, and never argued, because I was watching and learning. The only person who saw past the clipboard tyranny was old Mr. Harlan, the founder of Serenity Pines himself. 82, sharp as a tack, still living in the original model home at the entrance. Everyone called him Grandpa Harlan, even though none of us were blood related. He'd built the whole subdivision in the 90s and still quietly owned 12 prime rental properties scattered across the community. Karen and her board treated him like a walking ATM, always stopping by with casseroles and hints about how the association could manage those rentals for him once he got too old. I just showed up every Sunday with coffee from the diner 2 towns over, the one with the early bird special he loved. We'd sit on his porch swing and talk about anything but HOA nonsense. He never asked why I kept getting fined. He just listened while I vented about deadlines and dreams of scaling my freelance work into a full property management side hustle. "You've got something Karen and her crowd will never understand," he told me one morning when I was 28. "You respect the work, not the title. They see rules as weapons. You see buildings as possibilities." I never told anyone, especially not the board, that my little freelance gigs had already grown into something bigger. I'd spotted 3 distressed homes inside Serenity Pines going into foreclosure, properties that Karen had helped push owners out of with endless violation letters. I bought them quietly through an LLC, fixed them up at night with contractors who didn't ask questions, and turned them into short-term corporate rentals that booked solid. By 30, I owned 8 properties total across 3 suburbs, portfolio sitting at $42 million. 4.9-star average ratings, and a waiting list for my managed homes. But to the neighborhood, I was still that poor Voss girl who can't even keep her lawn straight. Perfect cover. Every Sunday breakfast with Harlan, I showed him the real spreadsheets. His eyes would light up. "You did this yourself, Riley. No handouts, no whining." I'd shrug and say I learned it from watching him. How he'd held those 12 rentals through 3 recessions without selling a single one to the highest bidder. By the time I turned 31, Harlan owned those 12 single-family homes outright, worth roughly $6.2 million combined, all inside Serenity Pines. Karen's husband was still just a regional sales guy with a decent salary and 2 kids in private school. But in the HOA world, Karen was the golden child because she wore the president's sash and could quote the covenant's chapter and verse. 3 months before Harlan passed, he slid an envelope across the diner table. Legal documents. I'm updating my estate plan. You deserve to know what's coming. I try to protest. He cut me off. I know exactly what Karen and the board expect. And I know what you've built without ever asking me for a dime. Inside was a copy of the new will. The 12 rental homes, every last one, were going to me. To Karen, he left $50,000 cash and his old Cadillac. To the board members who'd been circling him like vultures, a few personal trinkets and 25 grand each. This is going to cause problems, I whispered. Harlan's smile was pure mischief. Good. Let it. You're the one who actually shows up. You're the one who built something real. They're going to be furious, but you're strong enough to handle it. He died 6 weeks later. Peaceful. In his sleep. The board immediately started texting like it was Christmas morning. No one even asked me. They just assumed Karen would inherit the portfolio and fold it into the association's community enhancement fund, code for her husband's next bonus. The special meeting was scheduled for 2 weeks after the funeral at the community center. The same sterile room where Karen had fined me 17 times in the last 5 years. I showed up 10 minutes early in a simple navy blouse I bought for a client pitch. Karen swept in wearing a power suit that probably cost more than my first house. Her husband on one arm, the rest of the board trailing like ducklings. She patted my shoulder with that fake sympathy. Riley, sweetie, so good you could make it. Don't worry. Once the properties are under association control, we'll make sure you can still visit the neighborhood. Family helps family. Right. I just smiled. That's generous of you. Karen, the board was already loudly planning renovations. Those Elm Street units need new roofs, one guy announced. We can jack rents 20% easy. Karen nodded sagely. And liquidate 2 of them for cash. Maybe expand the playground I've been pushing for. The one with my name on the plaque. They were spending money that wasn't theirs yet. If you've ever been the neighborhood punchline, you know that feeling. I just sat there, folder in my lap, waiting. Harlan's attorney, Mr. Sherman, walked in looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He cleared his throat. Harlan Voss was my client and friend for 30 years. He was very specific about his wishes. Karen was already beaming. Mr. Sherman opened the thick folder. To the board members, I leave personal effects and $25,000 each. Karen's smile froze. To Karen Blakely, I leave $50,000 in my 2018 Cadillac. Her husband actually laughed out loud. Wait, what about the 12 rentals? Mr. Sherman didn't even look up. I'm getting to that. Karen stood up dramatically. All 12 properties go to the association under my leadership. Riley gets nothing. She barely participates. She violates covenants constantly. She's never been a team player. The board murmured agreement. Karen's voice rose. That's right. She's abandoned the community spirit. I just placed my own thick folder on the table and waited. Mr. Sherman read from the will in a steady voice. To my friend Riley Voss, who has proven through quiet dedication and genuine care that she understands real community and hard work. I leave my entire portfolio of 12 single-family rental homes in Serenity Pines. The room went dead silent. Then Karen exploded. This is outrageous. She doesn't even have a real career. How is she supposed to manage anything? She must have manipulated him. I slid my folder across to Mr. Sherman. There's something the board should see. Could you confirm the transfer dates? Please. His eyes widened as he flipped pages. Oh my, these are recorded deeds. All 12 of Harlan's rental properties were sold, beginning 3 years ago, to Riley Voss. Karen's face drained of color. What? I kept my voice calm. Fair market value. Seller-financed mortgages. Every payment documented and filed with the county recorder. The will is just Harlan's way of making it public. Technically, I'm bequeathing myself properties I already own. Karen's husband sputtered. Impossible. You live in that tiny house. You get fined every month. You can't afford 12 homes. I let the silence stretch exactly 3 seconds. I own 14 properties now across 3 counties. My company, Voss Property Group, is currently valued at $47 million. Those 12 Harlan sold me were integrated into my portfolio years ago. I've been managing them as premium rentals while paying him a steady annuity from the profits, money that covered his retirement comfortably. Karen actually laughed. A sharp, ugly sound. That's ridiculous. If you were that successful, we'd all know about it. I turned my phone around and showed the screen. The local Business Journal article from 8 months earlier featuring my face under the headliner 35, Reshaping Suburban Real Estate. The board members went pale. Karen's voice cracked. Those documents are fake. You forged them to steal from the community. Mr. Sherman cut in quietly. Karen, these are notarized, recorded, and cross-filed in Harlan's own estate records. He kept copies precisely because he anticipated this exact reaction. He sold them to Riley because she was the only one with both the capital and the integrity to maintain them properly. The board started shifting in their seats. One woman whispered, "But what are we supposed to get? We've been loyal for years." I looked straight at Karen. You got exactly what Harlan thought you deserved. $50,000 and a used car. That's more than I ever got from this neighborhood after years of your friendly fines. The room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. Karen's perfect lipstick started to smear as she realized the empire she'd been polishing for 12 years had just slipped through her manicured fingers. But we weren't done. Not even close. Because the real explosion was still coming. Karen slammed both palms on the table. Her voice climbing into that shrill register every homeowner in Serenity Pines had heard at least once. This is theft. The association will contest every single transfer. Riley manipulated an elderly man. Everyone knows she was over there constantly, probably whispering in his ear. I stayed seated, hands folded, letting her dig the hole deeper. Mr. Sherman just sighed and pulled out another set of papers. Before we go any further, there's something the entire board needs to hear. Detective Sarah Chun from the County Fraud Unit and Agent Morales from the IRS are waiting outside. They've been investigating financial irregularities tied to Harlan Voss's estate for the last 3 weeks. The color drained from Karen's face so fast her foundation looked like cheap drywall. Her husband started babbling. This is a misunderstanding. We were just trying to protect the community. Detective Chun walked in first. Badge clipped to her jacket, followed by the IRS agent carrying a much thicker folder than mine. Chun didn't waste time. 3 weeks before Harlan Voss died, someone filed paperwork attempting to declare him mentally incompetent and transfer all 12 properties into a revocable trust controlled exclusively by Karen Blakely as HOA president. She dropped the forged documents on the table. These medical evaluations are fake. The notary stamp doesn't exist in the state database. And the signature? Well, we got Harlan's actual doctors on record saying he was sharper at 82 than most people are at 50. Every head in the room swiveled toward Karen. She tried the sweet voice again. I was only looking out for him. His memory was slipping. Everyone saw it. Agent Morales flipped open his folder. We also have email chains from your personal account. Karen, coordinating payment to a DR. Rebecca Hamilton, who turns out to be your cousin's unlicensed paralegal, for those fake evaluations. The emails were sent from your HOA board laptop, timestamped during the exact window Harlan was still making his own decisions. Karen's husband stood up so fast his chair toppled. She didn't know. It was my idea. Chen's voice stayed ice cold. We also traced $47,000 in unauthorized withdrawals from Harlan's accounts in the 6 months before his death. Every transfer landed in accounts belonging to Karen Blakely and 2 board members sitting at this table right now. One board member started crying. Karen tried one last desperate pivot. Those were loans. He said we could borrow for community projects. Morales held up bank statements. Harlan reported every single one as fraud 2 weeks before he died. He filed formal complaints and asked Mr. Sherman to keep records because he suspected exactly this. The detective snapped handcuffs open. Karen Blakely, you're under arrest for financial exploitation of an elderly person, forgery, attempted fraud, and conspiracy. The rest of you, don't leave town. The meeting room erupted. Karen's perfect blonde hair came half out of its French twist as she screamed. This is a witch hunt. I built this neighborhood. While 2 officers escorted her out past the same HOA sign she'd polished every month. Her husband followed, muttering about lawyers he couldn't afford anymore. I watched the whole thing without a word, the same way I'd watched every fine slide under my door for years. The community chat group, usually flooded with Karen's passive-aggressive reminders about approved mulch colors, went nuclear within minutes. Someone posted the arrest photo. Another neighbor replied with screenshots of every ridiculous violation notice she'd ever sent. The laughter started slow, then built until it felt like the whole subdivision was finally exhaling. But the real satisfaction came later that afternoon when Mr. Sherman pulled me aside. Harlan left one more sealed letter for you, only to be opened after the dust settled. I met him at his office an hour later. The envelope was thick, addressed in Harlan's careful handwriting, for Riley when the clipboard queens finally shut up. Inside were 3 handwritten pages dated 2 weeks before Harlan died. My dear Riley, if you're reading this, it means Karen and her little court finally showed their true colors. I'm sorry you had to watch it, but I'm not sorry for the choices I made. I sold you those 12 homes because you were the only one who saw their real value. Not as cash to be flipped, but as foundations worth protecting. You proved you could build something lasting without ever asking for shortcuts. Karen was raised to believe the rules entitled her to everything. You were raised to earn it. Only one of those paths builds character. I know you'll feel guilty when she faces consequences. Don't. Her choices built her cage. Your only job was to protect what you built. The properties are yours. Your growing empire is yours. But the real inheritance is the life you created without needing anyone's approval. That's the one they can never take. Keep building. Keep showing up for the people who matter. And never apologize for outgrowing the people who try to keep you small. All my love, Grandpa Harlan. P.S. Check the storage unit key with Sherman. That Art Deco furniture collection, I promised you will look perfect in your next rental lobby renovation. I knew you'd need it before you did. I cried reading it, grateful tears, the kind that wash away years of being called the problem resident. The furniture alone was worth $180,000 and fit my flagship corporate rental like it had been custom made. 2 years later, I'm sitting in the office of my new headquarters. Voss Property Group now manages 21 properties across 4 counties. Portfolio at $89 million. 420 employees. And we're breaking ground on a boutique resort community next spring. The original 12 homes Harlan sold me are still in the portfolio, professionally managed, throwing off steady cash flow that reminds me every month exactly who believed in me when the entire neighborhood wrote me off. Karen lost everything. The board voted her out in an emergency session the same week she made bail. Turns out the community chat group had become a full-blown petition drive. Her husband's insurance agency dropped him after the local news ran the headline, HOA president arrested for trying to steal founder's estate. Their house went on the market at a fire sale price. No one wanted to live next to the woman who'd find them for Christmas lights. Karen took a plea deal, testified against the 2 board members who'd helped with the forgeries, got disbarred from any future HOA leadership, and was sentenced to 18 months of probation plus full restitution. She now works part-time at a big box store 2 towns over, wearing a vest instead of a power suit. I saw her once in the parking lot, clipboard gone, makeup gone. That plastic smile finally cracked. She looked away first. The neighborhood changed too. The new board repealed half the ridiculous covenants within 6 months. Residents can finally choose their own mailbox color. Holiday lights can be warm white again. One neighbor even planted sunflowers without getting a violation notice. I kept one copy of Karen's last fine letter framed above my desk, dated 3 days before Harlan died, citing excessive personal success as a potential eyesore. I never responded to her apology card 6 months later. Some wounds run deeper than pastel stationery can heal. Last month, I had dinner with Mr. Sherman at the flagship rental, the one I named Harlan House in quiet honor. We toasted with Harlan's favorite bourbon. He'd be so proud, Sherman said. You turned his faith into an empire. I smiled. I just followed his example. Build something real. Show up for people who matter. Never apologize for being successful. And never let anyone make you feel small. He clinked his glass. Never again. If you've ever been fined into submission by an HOA Karen, if you've ever been the neighborhood punchline while secretly building something massive, drop your story in the comments. What would you have done? Hit that like button if you've ever had to walk away from toxic gatekeepers to protect your peace, because you're not alone. And remember, the clipboard always breaks before the quiet ones do. The first year after the arrests felt like waking up from a decade-long bad dream. Residents who used to cross the street to avoid me now stopped to say thank you. One woman who'd been fined $600 for having the wrong garden gnome actually hugged me in a grocery store. I never knew you were fighting for all of us, she whispered. I just shrugged and told her the real hero had been Harlan. But the satisfaction ran deeper than public thanks. Every time a new tenant moved into one of the 12 original homes and left a 5-star review, praising the updated kitchens and zero drama, I felt Harlan's quiet nod of approval all over again. Karen tried one last pathetic power play 6 months after her sentencing. She filed a civil suit claiming emotional distress and demanding the association reimburse her legal fees. The judge took one look at the mountain of evidence, forged documents, bank records, her own emails, and laughed her out of court so fast the gavel barely had time to drop. The local paper ran a follow-up piece titled, "Former HOA Queen Now Begged for Mercy After Failed Estate Heist." Her son transferred to a college out of state. Her husband moved into a studio apartment above his cousin's garage. Last I heard, she was selling essential oils on social media with captions about reclaiming her power. The same woman who'd spent 12 years stripping everyone else's. Meanwhile, my little side hustle had become an unstoppable machine. I bought 2 more distressed properties inside Serenity Pines. Houses Karen had once tried to force into foreclosure with endless citations. I fixed them up, rebranded them as corporate retreats, and watched the booking calendar fill 6 months out. The neighborhood association actually sent me a thank you plaque for elevating property values. I hung it next to Karen's last fine letter. Irony tastes better than any casserole she ever brought to a meeting. The real closure came during a quiet Sunday breakfast at the old diner, now run by Harlan's favorite waitress. I ordered as usual and sat in our booth. Mr. Sherman joined me with the final estate paperwork. Everything's closed. Criminal restitution paid in full. The storage unit furniture is installed in your flagship lobby, and it's stunning. I smiled. He always knew what I needed before I did. Sherman raised his coffee cup. To the ones who show up, we drank in silence. And for the first time in years, the weight of every petty violation, every whispered, "she'll never amount to anything," lifted completely. Today, Serenity Pines is still beautiful, but the air feels different. No more fear of clipboards at dawn. Kids ride bikes without worrying about approved helmet colors. Someone even flew an American flag year-round without getting cited. I kept the 12 original homes because they remind me where I started and who believed in me when the entire subdivision treated me like a cautionary tale. My company now employs 520 people. We're expanding into Charleston next year. Portfolio sits at $89 million and climbing. And every single time a new resident asks how I managed to survive Karen, I just smile and say, I didn't survive her. I outgrew her. If you've ever been the quiet one in a neighborhood full of loud rules, if you've ever paid fines while secretly building an empire, tell me in the comments. Would you have stayed silent? Would you have fought back sooner? Hit that like button if you've ever watched a clipboard queen lose her crown, because watching justice arrive in handcuffs never gets old. And remember, the next time an HOA Karen tells you your life doesn't measure up, just smile. You're probably already 3 steps ahead, owning the ground she's standing on. The last loose end tied itself up last month when I got a Christmas card from Karen's ex-husband. Inside was a single line, I finally understand what Harlan saw in you. I'm sorry I didn't see it too. No signature, just a postmark from a cheap apartment complex 2 states away. I didn't reply. Some apologies come too late to matter, and some lessons are learned only after the handcuffs click. I tucked the card into the same drawer that holds the framed copy of my very first HOA violation notice, the one that started it all. Every time I open that drawer, I remember the girl who paid $50 for a mailbox color and the woman who now owns the houses that mailbox used to face. The neighborhood threw a block party last weekend to celebrate the new sane covenants. I showed up with trays of coffee from Harlan's favorite diner. Kids ran around without fear of citation for excessive noise. Someone hung fairy lights in warm white, and no one called the board. A young couple who just bought one of my managed homes walked up and thanked me for making this place feel like home again. I told them the truth. An old man who believed in quiet work did most of the heavy lifting. I just kept the promise. They nodded like they understood. Maybe they will someday. I still visit Harlan's grave every Sunday. I bring the same coffee, sit on the grass, and update him on the empire we built together. The 12 homes are thriving. My portfolio hit $93 million last quarter. The new resort community broke ground with his name on the cornerstone. And the HOA finally learned that real community isn't enforced by fines, it's earned by showing up. Karen's old clipboard sits in the community center display case now. Labeled historical artifact, do not touch. Kids take selfies with it. I laugh every time I walk past. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to lift you up, if you've ever smiled through fines while secretly rewriting the rules, drop your story below. What would you have done differently? Hit that like button because you're not the disappointment they told you you were. You're the plot twist they never saw coming. And never forget, the quiet ones don't just survive the clipboard queens. We buy the whole damn neighborhood.